Hello, Legionaries, and welcome today to the Command Tent, your very own Legions of Miniatures podcast. I'm joined today by my co-host Ian and tonight's guest Rich from Wapentake Gaming. Rich, you've just had a really busy weekend. How did it go?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Lander. I was running a Warhammer the Old World event in Leeds. It was a teams tournament, 4-man teams, and we had 8 teams battling out across 5 games on the Saturday and Sunday. We had a great time, thanks. How's your
Oh,
weekend?
my weekend has been sort of embroiled with Ian's weekend, hasn't it, bud?
Yeah.
We've been knuckling down to get ready for the launch of 11th edition next week, filming videos. So I'm pretty sure I've hurt my back leaning over a wargaming table extensively. So I'm slathered with deep heat. It's got that like awful smell and like satisfyingly uncomfortable burn, right? You know, so that's what I'm feeling. um,
The cost of hobby, eh?
well,
Yeah,
speaking of
definitely.
hobbying, I thought we'd open up with what's new in our hobby. On the screen, I've just thrown up some pictures of mine. So I've been working over the last few weeks. It's come to about a bit of a head recently. I've been scratch building an Archon the Black on Lich King's Chariot, a la the early days of what would it be, third, fourth edition Warhammer Fantasy. Um, that's been great. Thanks to Games Workshop helping me out with a bit of damage I did to one of the chimeras that I bought in the past. I managed to lose the tail tip. And so they sent me out another Manticore kit, not Manticore, sorry, Chimera kit, so that I could make that repair. However, I don't need 2 chimeras, and so I've had this like 99% of a chimera sat on the shelf, and the ability to then take the head from that, take the wings from that, combine it with 2 Tomb King chariots, and then an Archon the Black I picked up off of eBay as a spare from a Mortark kit in Age of Sigmar. Put it all together with a little bit of plasticard to make a lectern and an old Ravenwing upgrade sprue book that I'd like managed to remove the Dark Angel symbols from. I've managed to make, I think, a really nice chariot, which should be, hopefully, in one of the near future. I have been trying to film Tomb King games with our friend James at the channel for the Cetra Awakens campaign. It's not come to fruition, but I'm hoping that it will because I really want to get Archon the Black with the rules that we've made up for him onto the table. I think that's going to be really exciting. The other,
Awesome. Yeah, it looks great.
yeah, thanks. The other part of my hobby has been my wife and I have been watching the Clone Wars again. The TV, the animated TV show. I remember sort of going up on holiday to Scotland where we had Sky TV in the house that we went up there, and my brother and I would just sit and watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars whenever it came on Cartoon Network. That was going on Scotland holidays. You know, my mum and dad are like, no, let's go for a walk around a loch. Let's go for ice cream. Let's go to the beach. And we're like, no, Star Wars. Um, and so a rush of nostalgia has seen me fumble and succumb to the will of Ian's friends. And I've picked up a Separatist starter box, a Count Dooku, and a what's it called? A tank droid or something class tank droid. What's the class called? I don't know. It'll come back to me at some point.
They were the ones in like the Kashyyyk scenes, right?
Yes, they
Going
were.
through the
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I just had some friends over at dinner, and I was telling them about it, and he said the exact same thing. It's like, oh, that was the really cool one in the Kashyyyk scene, right? That looked ridiculously cool. Yeah. So I mean, you got him on the screen there, but I've got him here for you guys to look at a little bit closer. I've got
Hey, cool.
I've got some Iron Warriors metallic paint and some sponges, and the goal is just to go at this, bring up that really sort of dark metallic, wash it with a blue shade,
Yeah.
and sort of just get that sort of bluey dark metal color, and spruce up some bits and pieces. I used to remember playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And, seeing these in the battle for Kashyyyk, put that down so I don't drop it. Seeing those in the battle for Kashyyyk map where you got like Yoda on one side. Who was the separatist hero that you could unlock for that game?
Grievous was one. Certain levels had Dooku.
On the battle for Kashyyyk map, though. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't recall.
I cannot remember, I'm afraid.
No, it's a couple of years ago.
Again, though.
Oh yeah, I gather it's got a really good sort of community on Steam and a big modding section. So, maybe classic Battlefront 2, none of this modern nonsense. We could pick that up as a group. But that's going away from this hobby. But besides that, everything else has been preparing terrain for the new 40k edition. I am racing against time to get these cut bases for the 11th edition terrain sets to be textured. As you can see, they've not started yet. I've been helping out with the local store, painting some orcs, getting that ready for the launch day, and then most of all the Dark Angels that were necessary for the game that's coming out this Saturday at 10 a.m, which is something I'm really looking forward to the community getting to see and sink their teeth into. But that's been my hobby this last week and a bit longer than that. What's been going on with you, Rich? I've got this wonderful picture of you setting up terrain, presumably in Leeds, right?
Yeah, that's right. Also, using the power of Google, it was Darth Maul, apparently, for the 2005 Battlefront game. But yes, so this is my wife and I, my wife Sophie. We're in Leeds in the University Sports Centre called The Edge, setting up all the tables the night before on the Friday. Yeah, I love a tournament. I enjoy TOing just as much as I do any other part of the hobby. I like the lore, I like the building, I like the painting, I like the gaming, but I'm a social guy. I've always been into games of all sorts of different types, but even on video games, a lot of it's about the social side of it, like the community. And I get a lot of enjoyment from setting up tournaments and seeing all the people across a weekend. So this is us on Friday. It's very similar to what I do for other tournaments. So on a Friday evening, Sophie and I will turn up. We'll set up the tables, maybe do a little bit of flocking. I was expecting to be flocking some terrain, but Josh, the legendary project manager for UKTC, had actually done all of that for us, so we were able to get off kind of early and have some dinner, which is really nice.
Well, now I'm burgeoning with questions for a later topic in this discussion because, like, when I think tournament organising, I don't think turning up at a Friday night and doing emergency repairs on pieces of terrain. Is that? We'll come back to that later, I think. But
Yeah,
that's
sure.
super interesting. Speaking of, so is she still collecting dwarfs? I know back when the game launched, we did a sort of 500 points escalation league flirt with the idea at the local store. I don't think it kicked off perfectly, but I did end up playing her dwarfs, little purple guys,
Yes.
3D printed. Is that right?
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them
are
are Games Workshop. She's probably got about 3,500 points worth of dwarfs now.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely, she's continued with that. I mean, both of us have massively gotten into the old world in general since it's come out, and her next step in the hobby is really, as it is for me actually, kind of deciding on next army. I've decided I'm going to go with Lizardmen, and when I got some Lizardmen, I was also offered some Age of Sigmar. Night Haunt stuff, which can be obviously used for vampire counts in the old world, and so she's tempted by those, or to expand our orcs and goblins collection, because my second army after Bretonians is orcs and goblins. It's mostly night goblins because I really like squigs, and fanatics, but secretly fanatics. Squigs is the PC reason to like them. So she's also into orcs and goblins, but she actually prefers the orc side. So she's kind of mulling that over at the moment.
Speaking of orcs and goblins, my wife, at the minute, has managed to buy an old squig gobbler. You know, the big heavy squig that spits out things. She's got that upstairs, and I think for a painting contest, she's planning on doing that up to be ejecting the. Is it Hans from the Giant kit, where he's like,
yeah.
She's building up to be ejecting him out. And when it's all done, I think it's going to be added on to my orcs and goblins force as another rock lobber, but a bit more of a
one.
That's a cool idea.
That's really cool. I like that a lot.
So definitely have to show that off when she's a bit further along with it. I mean, the gargant up here for my orcs and goblins, that's a work by her, as is the smaller one just behind it, which is sort of something of a diorama, which maybe I'll get some pictures of that up on the channel at some point. So,
have we asked Ian about his hobby? Ian,
no,
have you talked about your hobby?
No,
Ian,
I've just been enjoying your guys' stories.
Ian, do you even hobby?
Yeah, it feels like all I've been doing recently is painting orcs, because when you came to me originally, it was like, oh, I'm thinking of recording some battle reports, and I want to do Armageddon, and I know you've got an extensive orc collection. In my hubris, was like, yeah, I'll help. It shouldn't be too much work. And then I think for every list, there has been a project that I have had to paint. It's not just been one or two things. It's like, no, I need to paint an entire, scratch built battle wagon. I need to paint this. I need to paint that. And juggling with a full time job has been fun. But the good thing is, and we both said this, is it means I'm getting through the pile of shame, and I'm slowly getting through that. So just the two pictures. One is of one of the tank busters I painted recently. Really happy with that smoke effect and everything, and that's the new.
I'm really happy with how those tank busters did in our most recent game. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think they did great.
To be fair, they've not done great in the game. What's fun about that model, though, is that's the modern Tankbuster arms, but then just a regular Orc boy, because the kit is actually, with a bit of green stuff, will fit all the old stuff really, really nicely. So you can squeeze a few more extra Tankbusters out of the kits. Especially if you're like me and you have the original one and you wanted to kind of make the Breaker Boys and the Tank Busters from it, so that's nice. And then I was just saying before we started recording, I've recently started buying miniatures to paint for my wife. She's not a very arty person. She's into D&D, into really supportive of me in the hobby. She massive encouragement, and always my biggest fan when it comes to these things, even though she doesn't play herself. So I've gradually been picking up some nice little 3D prints from a local store and just painting them as nice little fun projects for her. So a little myconioid chef there, because she likes the mushroom people. And I've got a little owlbear on my desk at the moment. Well, an owlbear cub, I should say, which is the next one. And they're nice palette cleansers, especially when all I've been doing is painting orc flesh for several, weeks. So it's nice to have those little things just to sprinkle in there.
Is the orc painting, is that going to move? Are we basically done with that now?
It depends what you want me to use in the next game, because there's still stuff to paint. But
I suppose you're about to buy Armageddon.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
It's not just Armageddon that's coming next month either, because I've got all the new British Conflict 47 coming as well. So I'll have several large boxes to paint soon, which is very fun.
You and me both. I need to paint beyond the one thing I have in my Conflict 47, so maybe that'll be August. That could be actually quite nice, because I'm acquainted with Alessio from who sort of did some of the Warlord Games bolt action rules writing, a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So
Alessio Cavatori, just to clarify.
Yes. Yeah. Just a smidge, just a little bit of bolt action 3rd edition.
Yeah, and Lord of the Rings and other Games Workshop games. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm acquainted with him. Anyway, by acquainted with him, I mean I ran a D&D mega game for him, and at the urinals he was like, "That was really good."
There we go.
That's where all the best conversations happen,
So and then I walked out of the room, and I was like, "That guy said I did a really good job," and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's in Lord of the Rings," and I'm like, "What?" And then they proceed to tell me that not only is he in Lord of the Rings, he's like one of the authors on the 1st edition of Warhammer Fantasy, where I'd read the rulebook cover to cover when I was like this big. I got the rulebook with my pocket money, and I was just like, I've spent so much money on this book. It's going to be the book I read most. And between, what would that be, like 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy, maybe 6th edition? I think 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy. I don't know, I was young, I was 11 or 10, right? That and The Hobbit are like the books I've read the most.
Yeah.
So, weird opportunity to brush into childhood. I'm not going to say heroes, but people who strongly influenced my childhood.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll have to do a. My point was maybe we'll have to do something with Warlord games systems, either a or a World War II kind of campaign or something. Is Bolt Action World War II or World War One? I'm absolutely awful.
World War
with
Two.
World War Two, cool. Yeah.
You're terrible with your modern history, Lander. But yes, it is World War Two.
Yeah, frankly, if they're not running around with swords, it's lame as fuck.
It's that entire. It's that entire. This entire part of my cabinet behind me is.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Over here, that bit.
Yeah, and hang on, am I saying that? If it's lame as fuck, why have I got Conflict 47?
Wait a minute.
I suppose Conflict 47 does have Japanese samurai in, so there are people running around with swords, therefore it is not lame.
There's a bolt action mini
There
with a
you go.
sword.
Hey!
Mad Jack Churchill.
Way.
Okay, right. Well, there we go. Maybe I'll have to start a Mad Jack Churchill collection, just like explicitly nothing but him with a sword.
Oh, it's one model, and you know.
So I will play the least competitive game ever. Just one dude. While you were talking, Ian, I have corrected the issue and I've thrown up the picture of the Land Raider conversion,
cool.
battle wagon. Why don't you talk us through that? Because that was something that I've egged you into completing. How long did you say it was on your pile of shame?
What? 2019, 2018? It was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Because I made it when I'd first got back into 40k. Because me and my brother had just got back into it before COVID. And I picked up cheap off eBay the Space Wolf War versus Orc starter box, like battle box they did, because I wanted the new Gaz. And I'd always wanted an Orc army, so then I went on eBay and bought far too many boys, which is why I have such an extensive collection just off screen over here. But my brother had an old Land Raider Crusader. That was the one with the Hurricane Bolters, wasn't it? That used to be Black Templar exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had one of them, and it had seen better days, and it was really, really like it was just beyond repair.
Right.
And he was just like, "Here, I donate it to you. The only stipulation is you have to turn it into some sort of Orc vehicle." I didn't have a battle wagon at the time. I still don't have a battle wagon. And I looked at the dimensions, used some plastic art to stretch it a little bit, flipped it backwards so it was like an old World War One rhomboid tank. Added a grab and claw that I got off an original Gorka Morka one. Added a platform, a few guns. I got the death roller from GW and stuck that on the front. A few other bits and pieces from old kits, and assembled what could only be called a monstrosity. But once it was finally painted, it had all come together and looks really nice. And to be fair, I tried some new different things that I'd done with it. I keep looking at it. I'm going to pick it up. I did a lot of work with sponges and dry brushing and all sorts, and yeah, it's a real nice centerpiece. I keep thinking I probably should model a gun to put somewhere on it, so I feel better about running it with a cannon, but it works. It sells an Orc battle wagon, and I tell you what, on the tabletop it looks great. So
Yeah,
it's one of the cooler conversions I have. It's the second of my converted battle wagons, because I do have this gun wagon converted, which needs a lot of work to finish it off. But
is that the raw plastic card still?
That's cool.
That's a lot of it. So it's a Lehman Russ. It's a couple of other kits. It's a few upgrade sprues. It's bits of Rhino. It's plasticard. Yeah, it's a proper monstrosity. Again, it fits the same footprint, so people know what it is, but it's more fun that way. I'm a big fan of scratch building and things like that.
I am in awe of you two and your hobby. Plasticard is being thrown around like a casual word here, and I feel out of my depth. I do love hobbying. I do love painting, but conversions are something that I definitely think I probably need a little bit more confidence in, actually, because I think that they can be a little bit intimidating, especially when a model costs so much to then cut it up and put it into something amazing and original and cool.
I mean,
I will say for Orcs, it's very forgiving.
Yeah. There are some things that, definitely.
In both fantasy and in 40k, Orcs are one of the more forgiving ones. But the lessons that I've learned by doing that, like I've got a lot of custom-made AdMech stuff, like the Night Haunt models with the great swords. They were the base of all my Rust Stalkers. Because I took
Cool.
all the weapon kits that I hadn't used with my infiltrators, so I've got that. I've got a custom Manipulus made out of a Necromunda model. So it is one of those things that giving it a go is how you get better at it, and it doesn't have to start big. Like one of the things that I started when I got back into the hobby was with Space Wolves, and just taking regular intercessors and making them into Grey Hunters before Grey Hunters were a thing again.
Nice.
And now I've
Yeah.
got Primaris Grey Hunters coming out my ears. It's great.
I mean, my feeling with conversions is when you sat down with the model that you've spent loads of money on to be the core of the piece, you will sit there and cack yourself. So, you know, when I'm sat there, sat here with Arkan the Black, right, and I'm taking I'm taking one of the heads, and I'm trimming away all of the bits that cause it to join onto the Chimera body. It's like, this is the no return point. I can't undo this because I'm not like cutting it away carefully. I can't just like glue it back on. It's a case of I am just filing away and hacking away at all the pieces that lets this be part of the same model. One of the easiest, I think, conversions, because you're a Bretonnians player, right? So I presume you've got a Duke kit.
I do.
Which means I presume you have the Baron, who's got the massive unwieldy cape body with the sword gesticulating out, and there's nothing to do with his offhand because there's only one provided.
Yes.
And I know you have a kit of Foot Knights.
I do.
And I know that your Foot Knights have great weapons.
They do.
So here's a build for you: 1 Bretonnian Warhorse, 1 set of Bretonnian mounted knight legs.
Yep.
The body from that Baron. Clip the cape away and follow the contour of the furs, and you end up with something a little bit like, not enough light there for you to really see, but you end up with a little like fur that he's wearing.
Yeah, nice.
And then a shield from a Bretonnian Foot Knight kit along with the arm all sticks together to give you a really nice, unique Baron, Duke, whatever you fancy, on a warhorse. And I've built mine up as Lewin Orcslayer, the current Royarch of Bretonnia in the Old World timeline.
Fabulous. That's very cool.
So if you want to dive into
the tips,
if you want to dive into your first kit bash conversion, that's the most forgiving and easiest one, but it still involves getting comfortable with saying, this Baron is never going to be a Baron again. Chop, 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 chop.
But to be fair, what you were saying there is that that's a lot of stuff made out of models that you're probably not going to end up using, because you've only got that one Royal Pegasus and 1 shield to put on the actual main kit. And you might have some just spare legs because you've built all the knights you need and horses and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it, actually. Maybe look at stuff that you know you're maybe not going to use and see what you can build out of it. I think baggage trains in the old world are a really good way of doing that, because there is no kind of template for them. So far, I wouldn't necessarily say what I've done has been super kit bashy. It's just been taking like whole pieces and putting them together to make a scene. But I guess that's like baby steps. Maybe I should back myself a bit more. It's like baby steps of creating something original, right?
Yeah.
And eventually you get to the stage where you look at a metal model and go, this this wood elf noble on horse would be better on a giant eagle. Where's the hacksaw?
Cool.
I'm not brave enough to take a saw to a metal model yet. Like, if a metal model is part of a conversion, I'm tapping out. You know,
it's fine. I had 2 anyway.
Yeah, the I think the one which was like the least consequential conversion I've done has definitely got to be, I took a Inquisitor Eisenhorn body and a Harlequin's Shadow Seer they've got like a faceless sort of plain contourless mask, and I tried to put that together to represent one of my Dark Heresy characters, who was this psycho, and he'd fallen off a building and become like permanently crippled, and had been hit in the face by a stray las shot, which had burned his face off. So ended up having this like plain contourless like porcelain face mask and like grav plates in his back, so he sort of just floated around with little noodle legs dangling behind him, and putting that together and working out where am I going to put the brass rod into Eisenhorn's boot to hold him just like a couple of millimeters above the base, so he's floating around in this sort of ominous presence. That's like the most nerve-wracking one, but that's because I think, if I recall correctly, Eisenhorn's a fine cast model.
Sure.
But with fine cast, it's at least it's really soft, so it actually lends itself to conversions in a way that like Forge World resin doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've talked extensively now about, I think, what's in the hobby, so now comes the Inquisition period. Rich, you spent the weekend doing the Old World Teams event in Leeds. Tell us about it, man.
Cool. Yeah. So 32 players because it was 4-man teams. Teams is a sort of a unique format within Warhammer events. You're generally doing it with some friends, in this case yourself and 3 others. And because you're going up against another team, there's a need for a way to work out who is going to be playing who, and that happens through something called drafting. So essentially, like a prepared team might make a set of cards of the person's name and what faction they are. With the dawn of AI, people are making some funny AI ones with their faces against like backdrops of kind of Tomb Kings or whatever. And in that drafting process, you sort out who you're playing. Sorry, Lander, go on.
Yeah, so I can just jump in to clarify here, because I think one of the problems when we were organising this conversation is I was labouring under the belief that teams is similar to doubles, where you've got multiple people on a table playing a single game, and it's not that at all, is it? You've got a group of people who are pairing off to have multiple games, and then victory of the team is taken aggregate across the players.
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of ways that you can do teams, but fundamentally, a kind of a general way of approaching it is everyone is playing a one-on-one game. But the cumulative, or as you said, aggregate score of all of the 4 games or 5 games or 8 games, depending on how large your teams are, determines which team is victorious. That can be done kind of a win-loss draw. So if you get 5 on an 8-man team, if you win 5 times and you lose 3 times, you've still got a win as a team against your opponent. But generally in teams tournaments, it's done on tournament points first. So either using the 6-0 system from the match play guide or the 20-0 system, and then you're basically just totting up all of the tournament points that your team got from across the games in order to see who comes out victorious. And I think the tournament points system that adds a lot of depth, because in a team's environment, you're not always going to get the perfect matchup, because those matchups are not predetermined. That drafting process is something that teams prepare for, is something that teams think about, and all of the lists on your opponent's teams are not going to. You're going to have some that you probably want to play into more than others. So, for example, if you're running vampire counts, you're going to feel more comfortable against certain things. So if you're running a load of hex wraiths, maybe you don't want to go into a null list that has a lot of magical shooting, and so on and so forth. And so you're trying to get the best matchups for your team, and then if you get a bad matchup, or if you're a defensive player that's kind of just tasked with, okay, maybe you don't have the kind of best army in the game right now, get as many points as you can still fight over like those 4 tournament points that you're going for out of 20. If you get 5 instead of 4, then amazing, you've got like 1 extra point for your team overall, and that can make all the difference.
Yeah, because it's a format I've always wanted to try. I've never really been able to sort out a team. This is not necessarily in Old World; it's also in 40k, because that extra level of strategy is really interesting. I know that none of these matchups are good, so I'm going to pick the least worst one because it's the best for the team. And I just think that's really cool. It adds that extra level of complexity and interest to the game.
Definitely, it's like a mini game.
Yeah.
Now I see one of the photographs. You're there with a guy which I believe is Dowie After Dark, and I'm aware
Richie,
that
yes, that's right.
yep,
Yeah.
I'm aware that Richie is the head of Team England. So when we're going into one of these team events, is it really that you've got these sort of big, I'm going to say air quotes, professional teams going in? Is there much in the way of like casual local pub style teams where they're just going in with for a laugh? I mean, you said there was how many people at the event? 32. That
32,
was
yeah.
8 teams.
Yes, that's right.
What's the
So
split like? Is it mostly a more sort of like competitive upper end? People are really thinking about it, or is it like a broader tournament where you have like the guys who are heading for the top tables and people who are just there for a laugh? Like, what's the demographic like at a teams event compared to a normal event?
I think that generally, going back to what Ian was saying, teams events require like a little bit of extra commitment because it can be a bit like herding cats to get some friends together to go to a teams event because not everyone's going to have a schedule that works. You have to be able to prioritize playing a bit of Warhammer over other things in order to make the same weekend work for everyone all the time. So I think it tends towards being maybe slightly more competitive. However, at Leeds we did have one team, 3 Smoggies and a Southerner, where some of them it was just their first event ever. And one of the guys, the captain Joe, lovely guy, I'd met at one of his first Old World events. They played a lot of AOS before, but one of his first Old World events in Windsor a couple of months before. And they had a wonderful time. They may not have kind of come top tables, but they were having fun games. They were enjoying the team experience. There's something special about doing something like that with friends and going through that together. There was also another teams tournament a few weeks ago at a place called Saffron Walden, which is run by a lovely guy called Lewis. And he had quite a few kind of newer teams and people who weren't so experienced with the old world going as well. At the Leeds tournament, Team England were using it as a bit of a training camp. So they've got a large team. So they actually had 4 teams attending. They had yeah. So they
Yeah.
had kind of the first 8 kind of split across a couple of teams, and then other players and kind of support members of the team coming along to kind of have that experience together. And I think we had a Team England team come top, House of Normandy, and a Team England team come bottom, House of Stuart. So it kind of shows that yeah, you can kind of filter out. But I do think that in general, that extra little bit of commitment that you need to get a team together, especially a team that comes together regularly to play at more than one team tournament, kind of tends towards making teams slightly more on the serious play side because people need to invest that little bit more time into it. But you can also have like an amazing experience and possibly one of the best experiences in kind of event Warhammer by turning up with your best mates in a team, being their local representation and kind of testing your mettle against some of the teams that try and do it on a more regular basis.
You see, I didn't have any idea that. I mean, first of all, until I encountered Dairy After Dark, because I was starting up my dwarf collection, I was looking for like, how do I try and edge Slayers into a thing that works? And the answer is, that's the neat part. You don't. You just have fun with them.
Yes.
You throw them on the table and you go, look, guys, I'm bringing Slayers. Let's just have a laugh. But I was watching those videos, and that's when I discovered he's like, oh yeah, I'm the captain for Team England. I've been made the captain for Team England. And I'm like, what the deuce? This isn't a real. There's not like a. Is there a Team England captain for like I don't know, Overwatch? I mean, maybe. Is there a whole world of? I'm not going to call it esports because it's tabletop. It's a tabletop sports. Is there a world of T-sports? Yeah, okay, let's go with that. Is there a world of T-sports which I'm ignorant of? I presume if it happens for Old World, there's presumably one for Age of Sigmar, Lord of the Rings, and 40k, probably for Age of Darkness.
Yeah.
Horus Heresy, that's what I'm for.
That's it.
There was one recently for Bolt Action as well.
There's a team for bolt action. Yeah. Okay, so
yes is the answer. Yes, simply is the answer to your question, Lander. The old world already has a World Team Championship, which has kind of had its origins in kind of the 9th age, and then preceding that kind of the ETC, which existed before in 8th and some older Fantasy Battle editions. I know Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game has the Nations Cup that happens. Right. So ultimately, yes, I think people are excited by the opportunity to kind of represent their country. They're excited to be able to find an excuse to travel internationally to pursue their hobby. And there's naturally, for people that have the privilege of being able to have that time to invest and that money to invest, do invest it and do awesome things with it by doing these kind of international events or kind of more national teams events.
I mean, I feel like we could have an entire podcast just purely breaking down to like, how do you start a team for England?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe we'll have a chat afterwards about leveraging some connections and seeing if we can get somebody who knows how you make a national team occur. Because presumably somebody doesn't just rock up and go, "I have decided I own Team England." Presumably, I mean, maybe that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never set up a team. I know the Italian team reasonably well, and the guy who's captain of that he basically said that the hobby is ruled by doers, people doing the hobby, people getting involved, people getting other people motivated to do the hobby. So I think that maybe that's part of the answer, but I'm not the expert on that matter.
So what you're saying is there's actually an underground cabal of forever dungeon masters who operate the world stage of tabletop game tournaments.
Well, maybe the Illuminati for Warhammer.
Fair enough. Well, that's really interesting, and so I think we can pivot from your reflection on how the event went. Oh, who won the event, did you say?
It was the House of Normandy, which was a Team England team. They did very well. They came close to capping, which may be something I should explain briefly each round. So in a teams event, when you do have some very good teams come up against maybe teams that are not so good, a good way of ensuring that the tournament is able to kind of continue in a way that feels engaging and exciting is to kind of cap the scores that each team can get each round. So there was a cap, which means that if you get absolutely smashed by your opponent, you're still going to score a few points. And if you absolutely smash your opponent, then great. If it ever comes down to an additional tiebreaker later, you have those extra uncapped points. But you only capped at a certain level, which means that later on in the tournament, the teams feel like they still have a chance, even if they didn't have as easy a run as other teams did. But House of Normandy did a fantastic job all weekend, and the captain Dave Brewis did a fab job with his three players, Mark Ronald, Jack Ward, and Andy Oakham. So yeah, congratulations to those guys.
Now, while you're saying that, I'm recognizing a picture in the photos you've sent me, because there is a Queen Khalida in a chariot which is painted red with some 3D printed obelisks. I've realized that's one of the Legions of Miniatures presenters' armies. Is that James? Is that James M?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is James.
Is that why I can't get him to bring Cetra to put on a table and play the next missions I need him to play for the channel?
Maybe. I'm not going to take responsibility for that. It's up to James, but certainly he was painting a lot of skeletons to get his Tomb King's army ready for the tournament.
Fair enough. How did he do?
He did really well. So it was his first experience as a teams event. He was playing with one of the other Team England teams. They needed what's known as a mercenary to kind of fill a slot to make it up to a full team. That's also quite a common thing in a teams event.
Hold on. So what I'm hearing is Team England won the tournament through the House of Stuart. No,
Normandy.
House of Normandy.
Yes.
And James was in a different house team.
Stuart, yes.
Oh, he was in Stuart. Oh, so he came last.
Indeed. And unfortunately, the climax was that part of Team Scotland also came, and they named themselves the original House of Stuart, but with an EW instead of a U. And in the last round, they proved Scottish supremacy by beating the House of Stuart with a U. But irrespective of that, the House of Stuart did really well. The original House of Stuart did really well. And James did say to me very like after the tournament, he had enjoyed it very much, and certainly from my perspective as TO, he and all of the other players were a pleasure to TO for, and it looked like they were having fun.
I was originally gunning for. Well, James has taken part in one of the Team England groups, and Team England won. Therefore, Legions of Miniatures is among the best teams.
Sorry, I've kind of right. I should have just left it a few sentences.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You then pointed out he lost, so now I can say, James, you've let down Legions of Miniatures. You know, this is you've dropped the standard. We're gonna have to send him to another team's event to go and reclaim our Aquila.
You guys, right,
we
could
should make
be
a team.
Legions of right there. You
Yeah.
go, Legions of Miniatures team for sure.
We're gonna need one more. No, I don't need one more old world presenter. We got Andre. He can either bring his
Yeah.
ogres or his lizard men. I can
Yeah.
bring. Yep.
Yeah.
Ian.
I've got 3 armies.
Yeah, you got 3 armies. I've got 7. Andre's got 2. James has got 2, and he's been telling me about his plans to start an Empire army.
Yeah.
And not Nuln as well. He's explicitly said he doesn't want to do Nuln.
Excellent.
So I'm always happy. I mean, when he says that to me, and I'm just like clocking how many people do I know with different old world armies? Can we do an Empire Civil War narrative campaign? You know,
I'll just be Skaven, and we'll put me up against their best player just to annoy them. It'll be great. I'll have a great time.
I mean, we are.
Definitely. That is a completely valid way to play teams and enjoy teams. People always get hooked on who came first, who came second, who came third. There's most sporting stuff available. There's best painted available. There's just having a great time with your friends and meeting new people. Those are all very valid and awesome experiences that you can have at teams and other events.
Ian's
Well, we've all. Well, I was going to say we've all played at events at an event together. We all do them, and it's something that I always tell people that it's not necessarily you're going there for super competitiveness. Quite often, you're going there just to have fun with people. Even no matter how competitive you are, that's the reason why we're doing this. And some of the best games that I've had in any game system are quite often against some of the best players.
Yeah, I mean, you're 2-time wooden spoon winner at the local store. I'm a 1-time wooden spoon winner at the local store. And Rich, you came first, second, or third. You got a podium prize with dwarfs occupying every podium position pre-press of battle.
Third, yes, yeah, it was.
So there are we. I mean, that's how we met, really, wasn't it? It was we played at the same local store tournament, which I was sort of running okay-ishly.
You were running it well. It was fab. Yeah.
I was falling forwards, is how I would describe my running of it. So, you know what? Let's use this as a segue. It's Inquisition time. I want to understand what really goes into organising a real tournament. What goes into running a tournament? Let's start off with the simple first question. When I'm running a tournament, I just go into the Discord for the local store, and I say, "Hey guys, tournament XY date. Which one do you want? Most thumbs up I see in the next 6 hours wins." And then I put together a Google document, and I chat to the store owner, and I say, "I want to do it on this date. Can you actually do that date?" And then we agree, and we go and we play on that date. And often the store owner steps in because we need an even number of people, and he's always keen to get some Bretonians on the table. That's my experience with running an event. I imagine if you're doing it on a level where national teams are attending, there's a little bit more that goes into it than that.
There is, but what I would pick you up on first is you said kind of real event. What you just described is 100% still a real event. I know that obviously there are differences, but I'll go back to what I said earlier and the advice I got from the Italian team. The hobby is kind of run in a way by people who do things like you just described. And getting people to the table is one of the things that tournament organizers or people who feel inspired to be tournament organizers or have that wish to kind of facilitate play for other people can really help with. Um, a lot of people might play casual games, but don't have that kind of like very slim on ramp to being able to getting into an event. Like, let's say they don't have the courage to kind of go to a national event because it feels like quite a jump. Having a local store put on a tournament by someone that they know and that they may feel more comfortable with can be a great way of giving them that outlet, that ability. Um, there's also the kind of like actually just getting an army together. So something that's quite important for a tournament organizer to think about, especially when a community is kind of growing, is what kind of level do you want to kind of pitch your tournament at? Are you going to go for battle ready, fully painted, everything based, at least 3 colors, etc., etc.? Are you going to allow people to play with kind of unpainted models or kind of like homemade models or whatever at times? Um, these are all kind of decisions to make when you're thinking about setting up your first tournament. And ultimately, I mentioned it briefly there, community is super important. It can be very hard to start from absolutely nothing. Let's say you and one person play at a store where you don't know that many people. If you were to just say, put an event up, it can feel very challenging, it can feel very scary. And there is a small risk to that you kind of like, I guess, misjudge the need or the wish or the wants of the community at that store. But there are kind of like baby steps before you get to that point where you just like in a way offer yourself as a starting point for people to just play a game. You get to know them, you kind of get to build that community. You might start running kind of like a night where people could come down and play your game system of choice. And then from there, when you get a small group, even if it's only, like 5 or 6 people, you can play like a round robin and just set up a day or an event at a store, and go from there. And just that can be your launch pad, because events are a great way of motivating people more widely to get an army together, to get an army to a certain point. So if you are saying that you want an event to have fully painted models, it will be a big motivating factor for the people that want to play at that event to get an army fully painted and get started.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
well, go on in.
I was going to say I can speak from experience with this. I'm involved in the bolt action scene quite heavily in Sheffield, near where I live, and just seeing at one of the local stores, the Outpost, how much it's grown by just having a regular tournament every 3 months. Seeing us go from having 10 tables to like taking up half the store now it's really impressive to see,
That is
and
really
it's
cool.
just because people see the game being played and go, "Oh, what's that?" And then you have that conversation. It opens the door, and yeah, it's great. It's really, really cool.
I mean, especially I guess with bolt action, the biggest fear that I've only very recently stopped being a Games Workshop manslut, if you will. Um, you know, Bolt Action was the first one that I sort of pivoted to. Not Bolt Action, sorry, Conflict 47. That was the first one I pivoted to, and that was only because of my vague acquaintance with Alessio getting a group of us who weren't really big gamers going down to meet with the guys at Warlord Games, and they gave us a tour around the factory, which was really awesome. Apparently, they do that most Fridays. So if you're in
Yeah,
Nottingham on a Friday,
That's cool.
go over to the Warlord Games. They've got like the old metal casting machines that Games Workshop used until they got rid of them and then sold them over to um, Warlord. And they talk about how they make they make their miniatures out of a cornstarch based resin or something. I think it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
really, really awesome and innovative. And then you look at the model and you're like, oh, okay, this is just going to be a really crap resin, right? It's not. It's actually it's pretty nice. I've worked with a few of them. It's
Yeah.
I'd put it part way between Finecast and Forge World resin. So it's like
It's
soft enough to work with,
Mhm.
but it's not floppy.
it's called cyan. It's called cyanocast.
Cyanocast.
That's
Yeah.
the thing they use. Yeah, it's really cool. Like I enjoy working with it as well. You've got it's like a metal model except you can shave bits off dead
Yeah.
easy, and that's really nice. And what's quite nice with it is if it does break, it snaps.
Yeah.
So you end up with a really clean, easy to repair thing rather than it, stretching or tearing. It's just a nice clean snap. Like
Yeah.
my dog jumped on some of mine because I left them on the floor like an idiot, and it broke into 4 pieces, and all 4 pieces have gone back together perfectly. And you'd never know.
I'm beginning to stray away from my point, however, which was going to be that when you see a game that you've not played before being played, and you know that there's a group of people where if you wanted to get into it, they're not only a friendly, welcoming, but also actually present and wanting to play games, it removes so much hurdle to entry. You're not going to enter it thinking, well, I'll just get this because I like the models and maybe I'll get to play the game. You know you're going to be able to play the game. So local scenes, setting up local tournaments. I mean, we're all old worlders first,
Yep.
but I mean, Ian especially has a range of systems that he plays, and I'm becoming more worldly in that regard. He's taken me from my monogamous relationship with Games Workshop and is and is spreading my horizons.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of good systems out there. There's lots of fun.
Definitely.
it seems that way. I mean, we come on to the news later. I mean, one of the ones that I was sort of always on the edge of looking at was Kings of War, because it's a rank and flank game that I think picked up a bit of momentum after Age of Sigmar squatted Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And when I eventually came to the conclusion that Age of Sigmar was being made for people who are objectively not me, I flirted with the idea of that, but then fortunately 40k became quite prevalent amongst my friend group, and so I re-migrated back to that game for a little while until Old World came out. But the ability to, I guess, just experience those games. If I would experience Kings of War through a group at a local store, I probably wouldn't have bounced off the idea of trying to get into it. So that's really interesting to talk about. Let's go into the tournament pack now. I mean, I mentioned that my tournament pack is a Google Doc, and broadly it boils down to try to bring painted models. Because it's a local store, I don't want to exclude people who are new, but at the same time, I want the people who have been there for 7 events in a row to at least have one painted dude. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like that's targeted at me.
It most certainly isn't. No, it most certainly isn't. You've done a very good job at having huge swaths of your wood elves, ratmen, Skaven rather, and Cathay painted to greater degrees with every time we've gone there, along with a fantastic terracotta sentinel.
You mean my only Cathay model that is actually painted? But yeah, I really like my sentinel. That's really good.
A model's a model, and it's a big one, right? So
yeah. Well, it's because the only reason why that one's painted is you can't really build it unless you paint it as you go.
I want to do one with a glow-in-the-dark fluorescent green paint on the warpstone core.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Anyway, we're going off topic again. The whole point is try and have mostly painted models. We're going to be using Battle March or whatever build variants. You're allowed to use community content such as renegade armies, but we're only using official Games Workshop FAQs, things like that. What therefore goes into a official tournament, let's call it that, instead of a real tournament, because real events are, as you said, any event that's being put on with the intent of actually bringing people together and really happening. So let's call it official, something on a larger scale, which has got the eyes of people on it from a broad range of the community as opposed to a local club. What's the difference in creating a tournament pack there?
Sure. So the level of scrutiny for like a larger tournament is higher. At a smaller kind of more local tournament, you can maybe be a bit creative. You can perhaps be a bit funky, and that's also totally the same at a larger tournament scale too. But there is more scrutiny and expectation around it. For larger tournaments, especially that attract wide populations of people, they can spend quite a lot of time and money actually kind of trying to get there, trying to prepare for it. They can plan around these events. So I have the privilege of running the Old World London Grand Tournament, which was the largest Old World event in the world for 2 weeks last year. And people love the kind of like excitement of being part of that, of being part of something that's like bigger. But obviously they have expectations around that too. They want that to live up to the hype, basically. So there's that kind of extra scrutiny. And what actually goes into making that sort of pack is depends very much on what those expectations are, or what you want to turn the tournament
I'm
into
just
as
going to
a TO.
apologize to viewers. The ping there was not your system's. That is my system going ping. Let me close the apps which might go ping at me.
So there is that kind of level of scrutiny, but as a TO, you are kind of empowered to put your own stamp on an event. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. You can kind of be inspired by your favorite creators or cool things that the community have already made. You mentioned one earlier. There's also like the World Team Championship stuff as well, which kind of is run every year, and you can take inspiration from their pack. There's obviously the Match Play Guide, which Games Workshop actually create, or you might just have some really cool ideas yourself, or you've got some ideas that you've maybe seen or tested at a more local tournament that you can bring to one of these kind of larger tournaments too. And essentially you're needing to fulfill the same basic roles as kind of any tournament pack, setting people's expectations ahead of time, letting people know the kind of like tangible info that they actually need, like what army do they need to bring, are there any restrictions around the types of models or types of lists they can have. Something I've actually taken out of my packs are some of the real basic things, like bring a tape measure, bring an army, because they are almost self-evident in my opinion. But I think certainly in some packs, especially if you're aiming it at new players, you might want to explain exactly what is required at a tournament.
Yeah.
You need to bring your models, you need to bring your rule books and kind of things like that. Um, I also try and explain a little bit of the kind of logistical stuff going on. So we try and do something social on Saturday nights. I like to reassure people that they will be able to get kind of food and drink at an event, or explain where they might be able to get food and drink if there isn't something at the event. Um, Explain how long games are going to take. And that's kind of all of the stuff before you even get to okay, what missions are we going to play? Like, what are the scenarios, and so on and so forth. So there's that kind of logistical element. There's that kind of like, what expectations are you trying to set and what expectations are you trying to fill element. And then finally, the kind of exciting bit, which kind of blends that logistical bit, the gaming stuff, and those expectations are kind of like, what comp are you running and what scenarios and missions are you actually going to have as
For
well.
the layman out there, what is comp meaning?
It actually mean quite a few different things. So it's quite an abstract concept. Composition is something that it's commonly kind of used in place of, or as a shortening for, and effectively it's what sort of adaptations or specific interpretations or a kind of mix of restrictions is this tournament using to enable to play the game in a way which meets the kind of expectations of the players or the tournament organizers, whatever those might be. Some comps might be aimed at balancing a game better, some comps might be aimed at making a narrative like style event, some comps may be aimed at making a more competitive style event. Comp is essentially a TO's way of expressing how they want an event to be in a way.
Okay. Well, I think that kind of covers a little bit of the next question about communications. So I'm going to skip that question for now. We'll cycle back to it in a minute, because you've
Sure.
also talked about communicating the idea about what a tournament organizer is looking for. So when it comes to judging an event, moderating an event, we've all heard the story, at least many of us have heard the story, about the weighted dice at the bottom of a toilet, right? From one of the 40k tournaments a couple of years ago. What's the challenge in like the actual human to human relationships and the dealing with the mismatch of, I guess, expectations or etiquette, or people who are more willing to sort of push others to the side? How does that get dealt with? I mean, I'm going to come out and
Hmm.
I'm going to be accusatory for a second here. There is
Sure.
sometimes something that you read online saying that, you know, tournament organizers aren't willing to actually make the hard calls and, you know, kick people out of certain events or provide actual um what would be the word I'm looking for here? Consequences for negative behavior, antisocial, or not antisocial behavior necessarily, but maybe anti-gaming social behavior. So let's go to the other side of the table. You're a tournament organizer. Do you act as a judge and a moderator on the day itself?
I do, yeah, and it is quite a difficult thing. Like being a tournament organizer is a job. It's not, necessarily something you get paid for all the time, or it's something that you like could earn money for loads and so on and so forth. It's definitely a privilege to be an organizer, and it's something that I very much enjoy. But
That's a lot of caveats.
well, there are quite a lot of caveats because the amount of work you put in, if you're taking that role seriously, and especially for the larger events, you are doing like 12 hours work in a day, if you are, because you have that kind of, as I was talking about, like Friday, like what do the tables look like, what's the terrain setup like, does it match what I've put in my pack? There's that pack creation, there's if you handle the tickets and stuff like that. There's also have you paid for your tickets, what has your army list been submitted on time, and so on and so forth. And then there's also the on the day stuff that you were just talking about, that kind of moderating and judging. You're not necessarily playing a game, and I think that this job gets incredibly, like, exponentially harder if you are also playing a game whilst also trying to run an event. Again, at a local level, that's much more manageable. But again, for these larger events where people have these expectations, I think it's very, very difficult. And then also, and I know that there are a lot of amazing TOs that would never do this. There's also the potential that someone is running an event so that they can compete in that event, and then kind of potentially do it to their own benefit. I think that is quite rare, but you do hear stories about that sort of stuff happening. And this is where that kind of judging and moderation thing starts to get more difficult. And I think that's more and more difficult. But that's where that exponential element of more difficulty comes in if you are playing as well. Um, but there are sometimes difficult calls to make. Ultimately, you have to back yourself, and you have to back the rules that you've kind of put down and laid out. Um, I think that it's important to have support. I'm very lucky to have Sophie as some support, because when you're a TO and you've got a big group of players, I think in teams this is something that TOs also need to take care of at times, even more than in singles. You can have a group of players or one player who just completely disagrees with what you say, and a very respectful player, a good player, would be like, "You're the TO, I respect your decision. Let's carry on with the game." But not everyone always acts like that, and that's when making those hard calls and committing to those hard calls can be quite difficult. And then there's also the potential need to kind of balance what your expectations for the event are versus like the kind of literal stuff that you might have written down in the event pack is. So if you want it to be a nice relaxed event, but then you've actually outlined every possible penalty that someone could get for every possible outcome, then maybe there's a bit of dissonance there that you kind of have to balance out on the day, and you work out as a TO what you are comfortable with, what you're really aiming for. Actually, maybe those literal rules are not so important because I want to maintain that relaxed environment, or perhaps that relaxed environment isn't so important because I've explained to people that they have to follow these very kind of clear rulings.
Well, I'm going to take a moment now and I'm just going to say that was a really great answer. I'm really glad you gave it in that level of detail. A bit of the inner guy gossip of me is like, go on, what's the worst ones you've ever had? But I don't think that would be an appropriate avenue to go down. So instead, I'm actually going to pivot over to Ian. Ian, you are currently a practicing teacher. You're not like me, who's like skipped
Yep.
out to do online tuition. You deal with classrooms of children from compliant and placatable to unruly and maybe not quite aware of the correct etiquettes for dealing with other people at the time. Would you give any advice to Rich? I mean, maybe it's preaching to the choir and it's just patronizing him, but you know, if you took the pedagogy knowledge that you have what would you say is the best way to or a crucial piece of advice that you would give?
Lay it on me, and I can always do with doing better.
No, I was going to say I think you've hit the nail on the head because it's that backing yourself is the most important thing. You need to be seen as the expert, like in a classroom setting. That's the number one thing. It's you need to be seen as the authority, as the expert. Otherwise, the social contract starts to break down, and I think that's really what people forget a lot with wargaming is there's this unspoken social contract between players, and then at a tournament, it's that unspoken between the players and the TO. And like as a player myself, if I go to a tournament and the TO tells me no, you've interpreted that wrong, I go, yep, fair enough, I'm an idiot. But maybe that's just me being humble and never trusting myself interpreting these rules. But it is, I think you've hit that nail on the head. If you don't come across as the expert, if you don't come across as the person in charge, that's when it all breaks down. So I can appreciate it being hard. I can really appreciate being hard, and I can appreciate that sometimes adults are a lot harder to deal with than children because they form a lot stronger opinions and they back themselves a lot more. But I think that is the key thing. I really do.
Definitely. What I would say as well, like we're all aware generally what like a socially acceptable thing is, and I'm very fortunate in that I've met pretty much universally amazing people across the old world
Yeah.
community and all the wargaming communities that I've been part of, that I've very rarely ever had to deal with anything that's actually socially unacceptable. But you
Mm,
can feel as a person, you can feel as a TO, and even other players who understand what that is can feel when that kind of social contract is broken.
mm,
And I think then it becomes very clear what your next steps can be. And if you have that support as a TO, either from even players who you're or friends
mm.
with and are in your community, they can give you that backing and be like, hey, that was not okay.
Yeah.
It's clear what the next action should be as a result of what's just happened, and so on and so forth. And you need to be a little bit careful because that maybe that can come out in a competitive way. So if you
Mhm.
have a bias towards certain people, but certainly I think that it makes that job kind of easy in a way. You can be quite clear about when something has happened, and it happens very rarely, and it's kind of reasonably easy to deal with. The harder stuff to deal with is when people are very lovely, but perhaps maybe attempt to undermine you as that kind
Mm.
of authority figure. And they're not doing it in a socially unacceptable way, but they're doing it in a way which you might feel doubt or you might feel concern. The way I tend to try and go around that is just by being like open and honest myself and saying to
Yeah.
people at the start of events and to people I'm explaining, like, look, I am not the game designer, so you may completely disagree with me, but I'm just trying to help you kind of go forward with your game, and you've asked me a question. And
Mm.
if you don't accept what I say, then that's fine, but then you can't progress with the game, and
Yeah.
and then
I
you
was
go
going
from
to
there.
ask what sort of happens when, you have an instant where maybe one side is in the wrong and you deal with it, but then the other person disagrees with how you deal with it, and then they become a problem of themselves, you know. But I think you kind of uncovered that there. It's like sometimes people go too far, and then if they are pushing it too far, you said that everyone's aware when that social contract has been crossed, and
Mm.
you can escalate it necessarily. Let's
Yeah.
move beyond this because that
Mhm.
was an interesting but not massively pleasant, I think, discussion. So let's move
Mm.
back
Yeah.
around. Communications, getting
Mhm.
people to the event. As I said, for me, it was a case of just whacking in the Discord. Hey guys, we're doing a thing on this day. Come along. Sign up in advance. You need lists in by Wednesday. What's what's different on a national, international, or even large regional level?
I mean, you can kind of the kind of abstractionist or reductionist in me basically just wants to go like, not really that much, just
Mm.
expand. But in reality, that's not really doing a service. That's doing a bit of a disservice to the amount of work and effort that it can take to do that sort of thing. So I have the privilege of being part of the World Team Championship kind of organizing team this year,
Mhm.
and something that we feel the weight of intensely as part of that is being able to communicate a pack that is fair, that is clear, that is well presented, in really good time to the people that are going to be taking part in that tournament. Um, uh, like at that sort of level, especially if you're traveling internationally, individuals might be spending, thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars to be able to go and take part in that event. And I feel very much that the players, the captains, the teams deserve a lot of respect, or as much respect as we can give them. And ultimately, as organizers, the best way that you can do that is being clear in your communications and giving the players as much time and heads up uh, uh, as you possibly can, in order to give them kind of a fun and enjoyable experience. Something that is very complex in that is the timing of Games Workshop FAQs, and also those expectations I was talking about earlier, especially if the community feels like they want one thing in some places and one thing in another places, in another place. And so trying to get that balance of, we're going to use these brand new rules from Games Workshop, but actually it's only like 3 weeks away from an event, and we're not going to include this thing that you really wanted to include because actually these rules from Games Workshop, we have no idea how they interact, so we're just going to run with what Games Workshop have said, or whatever company, Warlord or whoever make the games rules. It can be quite difficult, so just trying to be as clear about that as possible, and making sure that players have something tangible in their hands with as much time as possible to prepare for that event, basically.
So how challenging, I think you just alluded to it a little bit there, how challenging is hype to deal with? Because presumably when Games Workshop comes out and says, hey guys, here's the brand new army, or here's a new set of models, and the rules come out the morning before the event, presumably you can't necessarily on a large level, and respect the time of the people who are coming from vast different distances away, incorporate that into that event. But I guess people probably also are hyped and really keen to bring this brand new, lovely, shiny thing that they bought the day before, painted all through the night, to have it ready on the table the following morning. How? I mean, this is obviously an extreme example because lists
For
are
sure.
in a week beforehand, right? Or a fortnight beforehand. So if it came out the day of, it couldn't be in the list because it wasn't there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But if it really is cutting it close to the deadline, how challenging is hype to deal with?
Uh, Very. One of the ways that I like to deal with my problems in life is by running a survey, that Team England and others can definitely allude to. I am kind of a games user researcher by trade. Um, I, in order to help us navigate this problem for WTC, because we are kind of waiting on an FAQ for the old world at the moment, we just don't know when that's going to happen, if it's going to happen.
Next week
Uh,
is my feeling if it is going to happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
God, if it goes much later than that, then we're really talking like this is a very relevant conversation to be having. But one of the questions I asked within a survey, we've done a player survey, which has had almost 150 responses, which is amazing. The players voted essentially that. Uh, Effectively, that as long as we're not past that list submission deadline, so people have that ability to still create armies if they have. And for WTC, it's 2 weeks, so there is a little bit of a kind of a leeway between the list submission and the actual event for people to kind of get those last models sorted if they need to. Um, if it's not past that time to kind of adopt those new rules, and then also they've kind of generally indicated that they'd be comfortable for the tournament organizers making any kind of obvious day one patch that might be required coming out of that. So we know that rules writers are not infallible. We know that they create awesome games with different
Play balloons,
experiences in
man.
them. But yeah, exactly. They can't accommodate for kind of every possible scenario all the time. So I think that's why the players have kind of gone that way of adopt the latest rules, because it means the event remains relevant. It means you can use your new toys and so on and so forth. But also the tournament organizers should have a little bit of leeway to just be able to kind of moderate anything that seems very egregious, at least just looking at things first. But that itself comes with risk, because if you're playing something that you've never tested before, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, basically. And you just got to kind of, again, it just goes back to, you got to back yourself. And sometimes in a tournament, backing yourself just means like, I made this cool. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had to make it. So let's just enjoy it for what it is. And next time, maybe I won't do that thing, or maybe I will because it worked out really well.
Excellent. Well, I think I've exhausted all the questions that I wanted to ask you, I think, about tournaments, Ian, do you have anything that I mean? I've let Rich see many of these questions in advance. In fact, Rich even suggested many of these questions to me as avenues for conversation. Ian, do you have any curveballs you want to throw him that he hasn't had chance to prepare for and read his script off the screen in front of him?
Please do. I don't have a script. I'm not scripted.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. You can't read.
Is there? You know what? I'm gonna lean into being the man of many systems. Is there a
Mhm.
system that you would love to run a tournament for that you haven't had the opportunity to yet?
Oh, I think I would love to do Mordheim. You know,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
I'm very much into Warhammer Fantasy.
Mm.
I've only really recently gotten into playing it because my dad was a third-party stockist when I was younger, so I was like reading about it whilst playing Lord of the Rings and 40k, reading
Mhm.
about Warhammer Fantasy. So the old world has been my kind of gateway into playing it, and more time because one of my favorite things about Lord of the Rings and one of my favorite things about 40k has been kill team and battle companies, or battle companies and kill
Mm.
team to put them the right way around. I would love to do more time, which is a fantasy equivalent, and
Yeah.
certainly I would like to run something for my local club at some point.
It's also something that has such a good underground following. I've got a friend who I regularly play 40k with, but he's huge into more time, and like their local club, they've got regular game nights. It's still very much alive and thriving over there. So
Awesome.
Yeah, James, who we've talked about many times across this chat, obviously he's just managed to get himself a new 3D printer. That's where he got those obelisks from. We have been looking extensively at Mordheim terrain and how feasible is it to make a table of Mordheim terrain. Um, to do maybe like a Mordheim narrative? Do we just go with a Necromunda narrative because we've got a load of Necromunda terrain, we've got loads of Necromunda
Mm.
gangs, we can tell a story on Necromunda, but at the same time, as I said earlier, there's something cooler about swords and guns. And while there's a lot of weird and wacky sword like things in Necromunda, there's not a lot of actual swords in Necromunda. So Mordheim is clearly superior, having never played it.
I just think you're traumatized of my clan Asher Jews with their
I'm
daggers just coup de grace everyone.
I'm traumatized by the House Delac murder octopus
Oh yeah, yeah,
because
that was
two separate people have gone for that, and frankly, House Cawdor can't do squat against it.
that's fair. That's fair.
Um, I think it ignores being on fire or something. I think I was
Mm.
told at one point. It's been a long time since I played against it. Well, we've talked about the challenge of hype, so let's get into hyping people ourselves,
Yeah.
much to the detriment of our dear friend Rich here. So, um,
Not at all. No, hype is good. Hype keeps games alive. Right.
so
100%.
cool things from the community. Um, Ian, no, not Ian. Let's go with Rich. Rich, do you want to take
Yeah.
us through the cool things that you've seen from the community to build up some excitement for what is available while I grab the picture that I asked for permission to use and haven't actually put onto the PowerPoint that everyone's looking at? But
Sure.
go on.
Yeah, so um, there were some really fantastic armies at the Leeds event, and actually, generally, I think the Old World is a really beautiful game. People
Yeah.
love their ranks and flanks, and then because characters are often sat on kind of fantastical monsters or wielding amazing weapons, people put love and attention into them too, and Leeds was no exception. We have a wonderful baggage train of this fallen giant with the
Mm.
victorious Slayer standing on him. That is Dowie After Dark's Richie's baggage train. The winner of Best Army was actually this Minotaur with the Moo banner. The rest of the army also looked amazing, but that was a particular highlight for me. Um, there's a fantastic, going kind of back to the kit bash conversion, there's a fantastic conversion of a Griff from AOS, but
Mhm.
with the Royal Pegasus wings and some stuff from the Royal Pegasus kit to make
What it
the
is?
Hippogriff. And it's a fabulous model. That's Joe's from the 3 Smoggies and a Southerner team. And then also there's this wonderful 3D print of a kind of an Araby-inspired Bretonian take from a wonderful guy on Team England called David Williamson. His model, obviously flying a magic carpet, literally.
Love it.
Some really lovely stuff.
I love that hippogriff so much. And when I was building this PowerPoint, I was looking at it and I was just like, I need to work out where the parts come from. Those are the Royal Pegasus wings. That's obviously the Royal Pegasus base and body. But the photo you sent, I can't get a good look to see where or how they worked the clawed front feet and the actual bird head into the model. I'd love to see more pictures of that if you have them, or if you can procure them.
Sure. Yeah, I think I can probably ask Joe for some more. Yeah, I mean, he was very proud and rightfully proud of his model, and it was a fantastic thing to see on the table.
Excellent. Well, my things from the community is actually going via sort of looking at things that my friends that I don't get to actually play Warhammer with as much, and people in the local store. I figured I do a lot of things with the store and the community in the store. I run a painting contest, or I help run a painting contest and judge one, despite having, I would say, slightly minorly above average skill at painting. I really don't like painting, but I seem to be competent enough at it to pass by and get a couple of compliments here and there. But I wanted to show off a couple of pieces. So we've got the Howling Griffin's Space Marine, which neither of you two can see, but I can see. And if you are in the local, if you go into the Discord for the local hobby store, you'll be able to find it, but not by scrolling up too much. But any opportunity for somebody to do a quartered scheme, that's really challenging. To do a quartered scheme where half of it is yellow is another significant challenge. And I think that the end result here is so clean and wonderful. And we've been having a conversation, and we have, you'll see it at the end of the video that comes out on Saturday. Ian and I were discussing how much of a shame it is that scratch building and not even scratch building models, scratch building armies, setting up your own custom scheme and really bringing about, this is my 40k successor chapter, that has fallen, I feel, a bit by the wayside in favor of the ones that have already been set up for us by Games Workshop or by the providers of the game. And it's really great to see people going either at least more niche in the armies that they're painting, if not making something completely brand new themselves. And I mean, Howling Griffins, man, I would never want to paint them. Just like the reason my Empire are Averland instead of Reichland is because I don't want to paint pinstripe red and white on 50 Empire state troops. But that just looks really nice, and I like it.
Oh yeah.
The other side. Go on.
I was gonna say there was a reason why when we played Space Marine 2, my heavy Space Marine was Howling Griffins straight away, because it's actually it's such an iconic scheme and it's such a great one.
Yeah. The other side then is that Phantom Titan that my friend Andrew Gibson is painting. Dr. Gibson is, I say friend, he's also a colleague. We both work together doing physics tuition. But he's been sitting on this Phantom Titan for quite a while now, and I think it's a really solid hobby project of him. I know he's been like drilling out bits with power tools, getting serious brass rod in there to support this huge chunk of resin from collapsing on itself. And with 11th edition coming out, we've seen things today with the new points changes. Things like Titans and Stompers have come down in points a little bit. I think it'll be really, really awesome.
600 points for a Stomper. It's ridiculous.
It was 800, right? So that's a 25% discount. That is... And, I mean, you'll see the game on Saturday. That was not played with the points discounts, and the Stomper was just fine, guys.
It might make another tournament appearance, to be honest.
I don't blame you. Well, don't forget, we've got the Welcome to 11th Edition 40k tournament at the Dragon Cavern in Langold Workshop coming up next month to sort of celebrate people getting into 11th edition a little bit.
Mm.
But my point being, it'd be wonderful to see if I can get together with Andy and we can play a game with some really chunky models. I can get my Warhound down. He can bring the Phantom Titan along, and we can see how the Phantom Titan wins that engagement, and that'd be really cool. So we've looked at mine. We've looked at what you've brought from the community, Rich. Ian, what you found some things from the community, trawling Reddit by the looks of things.
Yeah, I went wide. Some beautiful Squig Hog Riders. I love it when people do the shark skin on squigs. Personally, I don't. I stick with the classic red, but there is something about that shark skin that just looks amazing. And
It's clean, isn't it?
yeah, and it's one of those things where you look at those models, and one of the criticisms the Beast Snagger line gets is, oh, it looks very snake bitey, it looks very this, but they don't. They do sell as being flash kits with the yellow, with the sharks and everything. It kind of shows that they are, for whatever you want to make them. The next one is the Admech Crossing Guard, which has been made by an amazing user. The sign is made from two 25mm bases, stuck back to back, I think, looking at the pictures. And that luminous yellow is outstanding. Like,
you'd call that yellow, would you? I'd call that very distinctly green.
Well, yellow, green, you know what I mean.
It's warpstone coloured, right?
It's amazing.
I feel like it's warpstone coloured, yeah.
But for someone to create that, like, as someone who loves kit bashing, that's someone straight after my heart. And imagine, in my head, I'm just imagining a full army of that, of just high-vis Skitarii, and
oh, Christ.
It'd be amazing.
The only thing that would make that better to me is if, Holt. If the Holt was in black and it was a red ring with a white center to really complete the lollipop lady vibe. To people outside of the UK, lollipop ladies are older people in the community who hang around near schools to help children cross the road. Now, that sounds horrific and like they should be on a register, and they are, because they are encouraged by the local community to support and help children come home safely. Okay? It sounds horrendous when I describe it that way, but it's a good thing. We like lollipop ladies and the men that do it. Now,
and then finally, I had to put in some Warlord Games representation. An amazing, object source lighting work with a Mark II Soviet power armor, dealing with a Totten Corpse coming out the ground. It looks like they've used the new Totten Core kit as well, the new plastics, which is amazing and amazing value as well. But I love a good object source lighting piece. I've done it myself a few times with plasma and things like that, and I find blues a lot easier and a lot more forgiving to do than actual fire like that. So to see that and to see how clean and professional it looks, again, just a beautiful, beautiful piece. And a very fitting name with Promethean Cult.
Yeah. I've got the challenge of Count Dooku and General Grievous to do with. I've got their lightsabers out, so I've got to have object source lighting for that. It's going to be the first time I've tried to do something like that. And I'm going to have to do it because I want to get them painted up and I'm running out of hobby time with this channel running. So they'll have to happen, but it's a challenge I don't think I'm looking forwards to it, but it's a challenge that I'm going to engage.
You can do it, Lander. You can do it. I believe in you.
I believe in me too. What is it? The soul is willing, but the flesh is weak.
You mean you can't cheat like I did and buy one second hand where someone's done it beautifully for you?
I mean, I could always go to Josh at the local store and see if he can do me some object source lighting, because he does some really clean painting. And I suspect he'd be able to take a finished model of mine and put some glowy lightsabers on it. But that feels like cheating, I want to have my own models painted, which is by me, which is strange because I loathe painting. It is something I cannot get behind. Love building, love kit bashing, love playing, love the lore. Painting is the chore that allows me to move from one step of progress to the other step.
But then it is your army, and absolutely no disrespect to commission painters, the people that employ commission painters, because that's also extremely valuable, and it's also their army. It's just another way of doing it. But there is something special if you do get some value out of painting, maybe not the process, but just seeing your models on the table that you've put your love and passion into, then,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've really loved about Old World was discovering just how well they take contrast paint. I know Dr. Luke Blaxall will give me, you know, he'll see me as a punk for saying that I'm willing to engage with contrast paints for painting my armies, but sometimes it's the right tool for the job, and it allows me to at least get to the point where I can paint the centerpiece to look as nice as I want it to look, while Elf on rank 3 is a bit okay. You know?
Yeah.
They're just a tool like anything else. It's like the new contrast markers, the army paint speed paint ones. They're they're a tool. They get people there, and it's how you use that tool at the end of the day.
Many people have called me a tool. So, with that, let's move into the news. First and foremost is Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon. Everybody knows about this. We don't need to labour on it too long. All I'm going to say is 11th edition plays really nicely on the tabletop, better than I think anything that I've played in 10th edition has. So it is super worth going down to have a look at it, because maybe it'll get you back into 40k if you've fallen out of love with it a bit. If you've got into 40k recently and 10th edition, maybe late 9th edition is the only thing you've known, then I think 11th edition is going to show you just what some of those rules designers at Games Workshop can really do when they're working at their best. Or maybe it will all fall apart in 3 weeks once all the people who really understand the game have gotten their teeth into it and have torn it to shreds. We'll find out. I'm optimistic about it.
Like, I'm a very narrative gamer. All my lists, even whenever I go to a tournament, there's always a behind my lists, and they weren't lying when they said we've thought about putting the narrative into every game.
Yeah.
The game we played, you were telling a story from start to finish, and it felt really good because of it. And
we alluded to this a little bit, didn't we, in our end game, which is weird because this video is recorded after the Armageddon 10th edition launch video, but it's going to come out before. So
yeah, we're time travelers.
Time travelers, yeah.
That's what we are.
But this deck here, I was like, I'm playing Dark Angels. I need to get to a location and hold it. Ian's playing Orcs. He wants to come through rampaging. We chose the relevant objective styles that those armies wanted to go for, and when we looked at the matrix to say what mission we were going to play, that mission happened to perfectly coincide with the narrative that we were trying to represent using asymmetric primary missions, and it was still a really close game. Now, no, I'm not going to tell what the final points were. No, let's not do that.
They were close, though. They were close.
It's a really nice game.
And it's fun. That's the thing. And I will say, having seen the models, only the Orc side in the flesh so far, but my box will be here soon, actually. I am so impressed again by GW's quality of plastic work. There's a reason why GW models sell so well, and it is because they are just consistently very good. And what's really nice is we're actually seeing that spread beyond 40k and Age of Sigmar. Like, the new stuff for Cathay has been beautiful. Like, Mao Ying is amazing as a model, and I just hope they can keep the talent making these lovely models and updating them and really keeping everything fresh and interesting and cool.
Now, we're going to have to blitz through the news a little bit because I wanted this to go for 90 minutes and we are at 92 minutes and 50 seconds. So, Armageddon, big news. Other big news, Hedonites of Slaanesh, new models coming out. I'm really keen to look at this for Demons of Chaos in Warhammer Fantasy, because it's Fiends, it's Demonettes, it's Seekers, and there's a whole bunch of really nifty characters if you wanted to create some really unique Heralds of Slaanesh.
Also, if you play Emperor's Children in 40k, it's probably still not a bad box to buy if you wanted some demons. There's a lot of value in there.
100%. If I write a arcane journal for Demons of Slaanesh, Rich, will it be available for me to play at the next London tournament?
Unfortunately not, but I would love to give you a game.
Excellent. Let's agree on that when I inevitably don't buy Demons of Slaanesh. Moving away from our first bit of Games Workshop news, Conflict 47 is launching the
Yeah.
Invasion of America. Ian, do you want to give us a brief overview of what's going on there?
So this is their second book. We've had Festone Europa, where the zombies were rising all across Europe, and now it's Japan's counter invasion into America. For those who don't know, Conflict 47 is an alternate extension, basically, of World War II, where several portals to hell were opened up, and they've given the different major factions of that conflict their own sorts of rift technology. This one is mostly focused on Japan, as you can see, and it basically consists of Japan just teleporting masses of troops behind America's defensive line and attacking the East Coast, which is very cool. And I know I've just said some things about GW's models being amazing. I do think Warlord are starting to really actually threaten them for the throne of some of the coolest models out there, because some of the character models they have made are outstanding. And I think that's nothing but good for the hobby.
More competition is fantastic, and it's great to see more stuff coming out of Nottingham's lead belt in a really exciting way. We've then got just sort of a brief overview of a few things that we're less engaged with. Kings of War have put out a new community survey. They are interested in people's opinions on faction identity, command orders, new unit ideas. So if you head over to their website with an interest in Kings of War, you can go and vote or submit your ideas. And heck, the community being polled for new unit ideas is really, really awesome. I wish more companies would engage with that, because I know I've got so many ideas that I want to throw down people's throats and they don't want to hear it. But I'd like them to pretend that they did. We've then got War Machine has put out a mid-year balance update. So very much like the FAQ that we're expecting, fingers crossed, next week, Rich, for Old World.
I'm hoping. I'm really hoping.
We can we'll hopefully see something. War Machine has done that for their game. Finally, Rich, you told me that you were a big fan of Mordheim.
I, in theory, am a big fan of Mordheim. I would love to run something for it. I would love to play it. I have currently not had that opportunity.
So Mordheim is a small team-based skirmish game. It's turn-based rather than an alternating activation system. So your entire warband acts, and it's all set in the old city of Mordheim in the Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe, where Warpstone crashes out of the sky, destroying the city of Mordheim, and warbands, miscreants, and ne'er-do-wells descend upon the city, seeking out some of this super valuable resource. And indeed, those of you who are aware of the Vampire Wars, bless you, Rich. Those of us who are aware of the Vampire Wars know that Mordheim is where Vlad von Carstein sourced some of his warpstone, which allowed him to begin his conquest of the Empire and seek after the throne of Altdorf. So it's a really important location in the years leading up to, actually, Warhammer the Old World, which is set just after the end of the Vampire Wars, when Manfred von Carstein has been defeated thanks to the aid of dwarfs and Empire working together. So, really cool thing. And what I've done is, you might not be aware, but I'm a member of the Freemasons. And because of that, it's clear that I have a lot of connections. And so I have pulled on these connections, Rich, just for you. And
just for me.
I've gone to some people in Games Workshop who have knowledge. And I've got breaking rumors for you right now. Are you ready for this?
Okay, breaking rumors, not breaking news. Breaking rumors. I love it. I love it. Keep going.
There's nothing in the works for Mordheim.
Sorry,
guys. And on that bombshell, thanks very much, everyone, for watching. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much for joining us, Rich. Thanks very much for joining me, Ian. Have a good night, both of you. Cheerio, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah.